right. I think I got it now. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Look like I'm a step behind on my live feed. I don't know what's going on with that. I might have to jump out and come back in. But you guys see me right now on Instagram. I'm like a couple of seconds behind on my live feed, man. It's crazy. Hold on, let me see. I'm gonna do this. 1, 2, 2 seconds behind. I don't like that. Because I don't like the guy I'm looking at. But hey, man, we got a good show tonight. Hold on a second, guys. I'm gonna get rid of one Stevie Ray. I'm gonna get rid of one Stevie Ray and another Stevie Ray. And I'm gonna bring in another Stevie Ray. Let's bring in that Stevie Ray. That was a little better. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, I've been gone for a while. I took a few weeks off because I've been working on a few other things. But I am back tonight, and we have a good one for you. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, my partner in crime, he will be joining us shortly. You guys know him as the professor, because when the professor shows up, you know he's coming with the smoke. Yes, Mr. Obby Klein will be here tonight. Now, Obby's having some problems with his camera, but that's okay. We'll still have him here vocally. And he's got a few things up his sleeve that we want to talk about. And one of the main things I want to talk about, y'all, I'll let y'all know what it is. All right. One of the main things that I want to talk about tonight is the squabble. Let me put my headsets on. Between LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith. Yeah. Yeah, we're going to talk about it tonight. Mm-hmm. Hold on a second, man. Let me see if I can get this other Stevie Ray up out of here. I don't know what's going on. I've tried to get rid of him, but he keeps popping back up. The other Ray Dog. See, there he is. But, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, man, how many of you guys out there has been watching this saga takes place? How many? I'm fed up. Kron, what's going on, guys? Oh, Lord, that shit comes off as a publicity stunt. You know, Kron, I don't think it's a publicity stunt. I really don't. Because in 22 years, have you ever seen LeBron have to stoop so low to get clickbait? Really, bro? This man has not engaged in anything outside of uplifting the community, helping people with education, sending people to college, so on and so forth. Now, all of a sudden, I want to do the clickbait bullshit. Really? What am I missing here? What? When did LeBron James join what I call the pro wrestling outlook to get clicks for yourself? As we know, Stephen A. been doing this forever. Yeah. Hold on, guys. Let me see something here. I was seeing my hey, who was that? Mike? What's up, Mike? I think Mike just joined from the CT Fletcher's podcast, F Y'all podcast. You guys haven't saw that podcast, check into it. Very, very interesting, and these guys do a great job. I was on that show, and brother, it's one of the best podcasts I've ever been a part of. Seriously. But let's talk about it, y'all. Let's see what you guys think. Now, who was that? Just said LeBron John Cena is the LeBron James of WWE. I really don't know what that means, but would you like to elaborate somewhat? Because I really don't know what that means. Who was that? Russent. I can't say his name. He is like, you can talk about me all day, but leave my son alone. I don't think every athlete knows criticism comes along with being who you are. As far as sports media goes, who doesn't know that better than LeBron James? Criticism is one thing. It's warranted if you are a journalist or even a fan. But the thing with Stephen A., I think that was a little different. I don't think that was about criticism. I think that was about bringing my son into the fray of trying to come at me to get clickbaits for ESPN. That's what I think. I could be wrong. Tommy Lee, what's up? Stephen A. wasn't talking about his son. He was talking about his parenting. I have to agree with him there. But I still think by using Bronny to come at Stephen A. and then bring up his parenting, just like you said, Timmy, and LeBron recognized that. Because think about this. Everybody out there, think about this. Bronny was number 55 in the draft. He went down to the G League, and he flourished in the G League. I didn't see anybody bringing up what he was doing in the G League. In one game, he hit 39 points in the G League, and he was averaging 20 points or more on a nightly basis. But the only thing Stephen A. was still harping on is that he's not ready for the NBA, and then put it in context as if I'm pleading to LeBron James as a parent, as if the league is about to explode over something like this. And please do not bring up nepotism to me. Please. And I think that's the button that was pushed when it came to LeBron James. You want to come at me? Come at me all day, baby. I got wide shoulders. But man, don't use my son to do that, bro. That ain't right. That's how I saw it. Now I could be wrong. Hold on, my man is saying something again. Off topic, Undertaker should have lost to Shawn Michaels. I think Vince McMahon. I'm trying to figure out who is this. Russent Enterprise. Off topic, Russent. I don't really give two shits what go on in WWE years ago. I really don't. No disrespect, but brother, I'm not a lot of these other podcasts out here that talk about professional wrestling all night. And brother, I'm from the professional wrestling business, but I'm one of those people that really don't give a shit regurgitating shit that I already know. So in essence, no disrespect, it's not a topic to me. I could care less about what could have happened in the ring like fans do. It's a time we do talk about professional wrestling on this podcast, but we start to show off with that. When I'm talking about other things, I don't really give a shit about what's going on in pro wrestling. No disrespect, but please be aware of that. You know, respectfully. Dante, what's up? Dante's. But going back to what I was saying. Hold on, guys. I got to get rid of this. I'm trying to see. Why do I have two Stevie Rays? Can y'all hear him talk? Let me okay, I'm removing him. All right. He's gone. But yeah. RJ 1, 2, 3. He said he'll both of y'all. We don't need to hear but one of us though. You know, I think I'm like overdubbing. I think I'm overdubbing. Something like that right now. But yeah, man, that's my 2 cents on it. And I would love to hear what you guys got to say. Let me see here. Yeah. Alpha Omega. Steve just broke down the fourth wall. I appreciate that, Alpha. No, I just see things for what they are. Stephen A just signed a $100 million contract. And you guys realize something? When has anybody in the media ever signed a contract and it was talked about as if he was a player? Anybody ever seen that before? And as I'm sitting in my seat with my agent Ari Emanuel. Yeah, that's what he said. LeBron James comes up to confront me. Now, how many times have we heard Stephen A. Smith go on his show and go, anybody want to confront me or have a conversation with me? You see me at the games and blah, blah, blah. Okay, the big man saw you at the game, then he confronted you. Now you want to bitch up? I think it was a weak move. But then you tell other players, if you had a problem with me, step to me. The man stepped to you. And you almost shit on yourself. Really? No, you're going to get in the studio and talk big and bad in somebody's face. The man said, don't bring my son into this. And you know what he was talking about. You're trying to get clickbait. ESPN trying to get clickbait by talking about Bronny James. He was number 55 in the draft. What about number 54? Who was drafted number 54? Who was drafted number 53? Who was drafted number 52? Who was drafted number 51? Does anybody talk about them? And they put it in context as if This man is putting his son in a lion's cage, and something's going to happen to them. Are you kidding me? Michael Wilborn said on an interview just the other day that ESPN tries to get him to talk about Bronny James, him and Tony Kornheiser, all the time, and they say, no, we won't do it. What about that? No, but Stephen A. Smith will, because that's what he's paid to do. Be a hatchet man for the man. He's a hatchet man for the man. He's always done that. Especially when it comes to African Americans. I got a problem with that. Stephen A. is a plant. Jason Willox exposed him a long time ago. I agree with a lot of that, Dantes, but Jason Whitlock is the same thing. A prostitute. I got a problem with a prostitute. You dig what I'm saying? One prostitute telling on another prostitute. Okay, what's up on that? You're doing the same thing. Jason Whitlock, brother, you should never bring up Jason Whitlock to try to circumvent a point. You should never do that. But I do know where you're coming from, and I do agree with you slightly. But at the end of the day, anybody that's sitting there talking about what is the girl's name that's on Fox? That the big hoopla was about. Sitting there talking about the girl. These girls are doing their job on Fox. Hell, everybody want pretty women. Joy Taylor, that's all right. Thanks, real cool. Joy Taylor is a very attractive young lady. You know, all the other women on there are very attractive. Hell, has anybody looked at Fox News lately? For years, they've had attractive women talking politics with damn near their ass hanging out. And how many of those guys that work at Fox and got in trouble for trying to move in with a Come on, man. Y'all don't hear me talk. And Jason Whitlock talking about if Joy Taylor, I stayed away from her because she's got that big rack out. She's got that peanut butter skin. Man, Timmy, talk to me, brother. Talk to me. This is me and you talking, bro. Joy Taylor wouldn't come within 10 blocks of that blockhead disturbing to look at clown. You kidding me, bro? Because I know me. I know what would happen. Yeah, you get your ass sued like Skip Bayless and everybody else. Oh my God, brother. I done heard it all, man. Timmy, I done heard it all, bro. This mother, man, don't even get me started, brother. Hold on a second, man. Somebody trying to call in. Straight shooting with Stevie Ray. Holla at your boy.
Hey, what's up, Stevie Ray? How you doing?
Good. Who is this?
Robert from Texas.
How you doing, man? What can I help you with tonight?
Doing pretty good. Just trying to call in. Really good.
Oh, I'm good, man. We're sitting there having a conversation and a discussion about some things. That's about it.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I seen you on Instagram.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I got in when you were talking about...
Talking about what?
Right in the middle of what you were talking about.
Oh, I don't know which one you're talking about. I probably can't remember. I probably don't know. Because I got a lot of stuff out there on Instagram.
So I got, when you're on live, I came right in the middle of your live.
What was that again?
So I got right in the middle of the live when you were talking.
Oh, okay. So you don't remember what I was talking about? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it came right in the middle of it.
Oh, okay. Right now we're talking. Right now, we're talking about a situation between LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith. Yeah.
That'd be kind of crazy.
Yes. Very crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got to get my guest on, man. I appreciate you calling in, dog.
Hey, well, go ahead.
Thank you, man. All right. Well, yeah, man. Come on, man. What this big square head tub of guts gonna do with a Joy Taylor? Come on, man. Y'all got me messed up, bro. Y'all believe this shit? Talking about clickbait. She's got that big rack out. And if I step in the room, I want her to have the rack out. Talking about Jason Lick was wishing he was still on Speak for Yourself so he could yeah, Timmy, you're probably right, man. But you know, when you ain't talented enough, you get fired. What about that? When you're not talented enough, you get fired. Yeah. But hey, man, I just wanted to set the narrative. But we got the professor in the house. And I'm going to bring the professor in right now and see exactly what he has to say about everything. And we're going to go from there. See what the professor What's up? What's up, professor?
Did you just call Jason Whitlock a tub of guts?
Yes.
Hey, this has never been my energy when I pop into a show, but why not? I mean,
Hey.
Jason Whitlock is a tub of guts, but he's also a man that I consider a mental midget because there's one thing everybody on this planet could do, Steve. You know what that is?
What's that?
Make a good point one time in their life.
Right.
And this man, upon doing research for God knows what at 2 a.m. when I go to sleep, this man pretty much conducts the same show every night about the same thing every night and sounds the same way every night. And yet somehow, this is tied to Stephen A. Smith, I promise, and yet somehow he expects the masses to understand what his point is when he's as boring as freaking paint.
That's what I'm saying.
There is nothing boring about Stephen A. Smith, and I think that's why anyone who has a problem with this guy making as much money as he is has to understand, number one, that he's an entertainer first and a journalist second.
Yes.
Would you agree with that, Stevie? With that assessment
yes.
of Stephen A. Smith?
Yes. This man is a proponent of professional wrestling. That is what ESPN did a lot of this stuff from.
Right.
It started back when him and Skip Bayless was together. See, they can't pull this stuff on me, Avi.
No, they can't.
They can't I see it a mile away.
No.
And see, this time on Stephen A.,
right,
it backfired.
Oh, it did. It backfired.
That's why he won't back down.
And people forget, Stevie, that what we see on air has to go through, on that level, it has to go through at least 5 or 8 production meetings before it gets cleared.
Avi, you better tell him.
By all parties, my friends who are listening. You got a great audience. Timmy Lee, Real Cold, Dante. Hey, you guys know what's up. I'm just reiterating the facts because I do have a problem with people who claim that they're journalists and don't place emphasis on journalistic integrity. And I know that both Stevies would agree with that. Both Stevies that we just saw would agree with that. And here's why. I have a background in journalism, but I also have a background in theater and comedy. I like entertaining. But if you're going to stick to 2 things instead of 1, that's perfectly fine. Unless you're painting a picture that has a multiple narrative. And that's what Stephen A. Smith does. He thinks that it's okay to switch hats seamlessly and use the excuse of being a journalist when he brings topics up and then go back to being an entertainer when his journalistic integrity is questioned. What he's done is he's pigeoned himself into a place that gives him endless excuses to explain the bullshit that comes out of his mouth.
Right.
Because he can't go wrong. There's a quote that I want to bring up. Are you okay with that, Stevie? I want to bring up this quote.
Yes.
The superior man understands what's right, but the inferior man understands what will sell.
Mm.
Stephen A. Smith cares about what sells. Jason Whitlock cares about what sells. But they don't care about what's right. And the reason why we somehow think that the person on television reporting the news should be right is because for the first half of our 20th century, they were. They were. But now they stand unopposed. Nobody can oppose these corporate giants. And I love what you said about LeBron James. And I love what you said about why LeBron has nothing to gain in this little sham that people think is a work. The reason why I don't think it's a work along with you is because ESPN can't benefit from this. They have to benefit from this because right now, I hope people understand that it's not just about money. It's about detail. The devil's in the detail. Do you guys know that right now, in early 2025, in the first 3 months, that the Michael Jordan brand, the $3.5 billion brand, has taken a loss? Do you guys know that's already lost $135 million? Do you guys know that in 3 months, this brand has taken a nosedive? And right now, the head honchos, the monarchs that even I never met during my employment, and I still work for a film studio and don't know who these people are, only by name. Oh, what they're doing right now is they're clicking the red alarm button. This is damage control. Are the Jordan brand is losing money? Well, we have to devalue the one person also affiliated with Nike. Yes, of course, he's got a lifetime contract, but we've got to prop the Jordan brand back up because that's our top seller. And the only way to do that is to somehow plan an elongated story, not so much worked the way people think it's a work, but we've got to do something to put LeBron James in a situation where his stock drops and Jordan rises. Because the narrative we're going to hear very soon is Michael Jordan never did anything that LeBron James did. Michael Jordan kept mum. He bit his tongue. He never went after reporters. He never tried to bring his family into the NBA. We're going to hear all of this. I guarantee you in about 2 to 3 weeks' time, somehow this is going to have more to do with Michael Jordan than it does with LeBron James.
Well, Abi, it already has. Because when Stephen A. was giving his diatribe last week, he started bringing up things like, I never said anything why you didn't go to Kobe's memorial, why you didn't go to your friend Dwayne Wade's Hall of Fame induction. I didn't bring those things up. Are you kidding me, bro?
That's a lie. And you know
that is what I'm talking about.
That's a damn lie.
What was that, Abi?
It's a damn lie because how about this? According to the Washington Post, the LA Times, and Entertainment Tonight, LeBron was there. He just chose not to be filmed. He just chose not to be filmed.
Exactly.
And as far as missing Dwayne, this is why the scummy press that call themselves journalists should be ashamed of themselves because LeBron James was there with his son who was fighting for his life. He had cardiac arrest at the same time Dwayne Wade was inducted. You know that.
Let me ask you something, Abi.
You know that.
Let me ask you something. Yeah, we know that. Yeah, we know it. Appreciate you giving us an edification on it for those that didn't, but I was going to get to that. But this is the thing. When I was inducted to the WWE Hall of Fame,
right?
You know who didn't show up?
Please tell me.
You.
What? Hey, I was on the phone before you got up. I was on the phone right before you got up. Hey, Chuck Zito was behind you. In the green room.
But on the real, you know who didn't show up?
Hey, Chuck Zito
My
never
own daughter.
Wow. Yeah, right.
You know that? My daughter wasn't there because she had scheduled a trip to go to Japan.
Right.
And what was more important, I said, she can see me get inducted on television because, it's going to be shown everywhere.
Yeah.
But this is her first time and maybe her only time to go to Japan. Now, to me, which one did you think I was more important?
Oh, there's no question about it. There's no question.
So let me ask you this. in conjunction with what I just brought up.
Yes.
You don't think Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, you don't think Dwayne Wade knew why my friend is not here? Of course he did. But what's more important, your buddy or your family? So if Dwayne Wade is not sweating that, why is Stephen A? That's my question.
Exactly. And you know what? How about this, Stevie? Because you're right. I think Stephen A. Smith, Stevie, have you ever met those people who say they're not something to prove that they really are? You know what I mean? Like, that example, I'm not this, and then they proceed to be everything they say they're not.
Right.
Stephen A. Smith plays the role of the black voice on TV, and I know exactly.
Black angry voice.
The angry voice. And I know exactly where he's coming from. He says he's from Hollis, Queens. He's from Jamaica, Queens, not too far. I grew up in that area as well. And this has nothing to do with the conversation, but in a way it does. I grew up, guys and gals and pals, I grew up in Black America. I want you to know that. I came from a different country, and at the age of 4, the first color I didn't see was white. The first colors I saw were yellow, brown, and black. That's where I was raised in Queens. And that means something because in the public school system, man, for about 7 years straight, me and 3 other white kids were the only white kids in the school. And you want to hear something, Stevie? It was the greatest experience of my life because I was loved and I was respected and I was never questioned and I was never told I was different. And I was, even though I wasn't the star, I played on the basketball team. And you know what? I learned a lot about the culture of the African American through not only school, but through my pop, who made it known to me that it's important that I learn that. And when a guy like Stephen A. Smith says repeatedly that he's from Hollis, Queens, and breaks things down, I have a problem with that because there's no authenticity behind it because he spent his career tearing down his own people. And I'll give you an example. Okay. He was front and center in demonizing Allen Iverson, a man who changed the game. He's front and center and right now demonizing LeBron James, a man who doesn't care about the white billionaires, a man who cares about the African-American voice and puts his name on the line. He led the charge in discrediting Colin Kaepernick. He questioned his motives while ignoring the fact that he sacrificed everything for something bigger than himself, Stevie.
Exactly.
And I got a problem
with that. You're taking all my points out of my head. I saw him do that.
We're always in sync, so yeah, but I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean,
and
by the way, we didn't play this.
And that's just a couple.
Yeah.
Just a couple that you're talking about. You remember the deal with like a real cool just bred. Now, who just brought that up? That was Timmy. Kyrie Irving.
Right. There's another one. Yeah. Kyrie Irving, if you think about, he made it his personal mission to bury him, calling him everything but a child of God.
Right.
I mean, he absolutely annihilated him. And now you're trying to rewrite history about LeBron James? He's done more for black athletes and communities than the athletes like Jim Brown and the Lou Alcindors who became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and the Bill Russells and the Muhammad Ali's, the people who really understood what the civil rights movement was all about. And now you're going to demonize a guy who's got everything to lose and nothing to gain, but still puts his people first? Are you serious?
I'm going to tell you something, what I've been noticing.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if you agree with me. And I'm going to see if the audience agrees with me out there also. Because as you guys know, old Ray Dog knows how to read between the tea leaves.
No doubt.
See, I can see things that others don't see sometimes because I pay attention. And I owe that to my mother, who always said, boy, when you don't know something, keep your mouth shut. Listen, and you might learn something. I'm going to ask you this, Avi.
Sure.
And the crowd out there. To me, I've seen the evolution of Stephen A. Smith.
Yes.
Back when they gave him his own show, I know a lot of people don't remember this. They gave him his own show, and he interviewed people in front of a live audience.
I remember that in New York. Yep.
Yes. And that shit flopped.
It flopped.
Okay?
It flopped.
Because what I noticed back then, Avi, you are an interviewer. You are a writer. You are a person that has thrived in the media for years. When to be a good interviewer, you have to make the show about the guys that are your guests, right or wrong.
100%.
If you go back and look at some of the films of that show, because I remember watching it and saying this to myself.
Yes.
This guy puts his voice too much in the conversation, which takes away from the guest of which you are trying to interview.
And he also caught the perfect wave because there was a storm brewing that allowed him through, by the way, the aforementioned, thanks to Stevie, who knows his history. And guys, hey man, I don't kiss ass. If I have nothing nice to say, I won't say anything nice. Stevie's been a brother for 8 years and very close to me. I can tell you this man's a scholar. You brought up someone who's very important to the progression or regression of the sports journalist named Michael Wilbon. Very credible person.
Yes.
But he and Tony Kornheiser were pioneers in ESPN. They were the first to take a show and interweave entertainment with education. They were all about edutainment, which I love using. They were the forefathers. Now, of course, there are people prior to that as well, depending on your take on Jim Rome, that jerk. But we had a different story for a different day.
Hey, man, I don't care how many times I interview people. I'm not going to let somebody come on my show and beat me up.
Of course. Of course. Well, he deserved that when he called what did he call him? Chris Everett. Chris Everett. I forgot what he called her. Kimberly. He called him something like that. But
no, he was calling Jim Everett Chris Everett.
Chris Everett. That's what it was. He said, "Call me out one more time. One more time." And then he hit him. But no, I mean, they pioneered something that I think became what I consider a Frankenstein monster in television.
Right.
Because Dr. Frankenstein, if you guys know the works of Mary Shelley, Dr. Frankenstein had a really good idea at first. He wasn't trying to rule the world or play God. It wasn't nepotism, and it certainly wasn't a God complex. He was trying to invent a person out of, if you think about it, the dead limbs and carcasses. He was trying to create a person and give that person some sort of morality and build them from the ground up.
Right.
But that turned against him because, like it or not, you're playing God. And that's kind of what's happening right now is the inmates are running the asylum. They're playing God because they're riding the wave that was created for a Kornheiser and a Wilbaum. And because numbers and metrics are the only thing that counts under this umbrella we call capitalism, of course they're going to give this guy free reign because being loud, not being right is what sells now. I don't really, if you watch my show and you watch Stevie's show, we don't subscribe to that. But guess what? We're in the minority. And so was William Cooper. He got shot. And so were people that, of course, were pioneers in the world of radio, in the world of pirate radio, that wanted to get a voice out there that was more about substance. Now, I'm not going to preach on and on about this, but I agree with you about what you said regarding Stephen A. Smith. But I think when we look at the bigger focal point I think people should worry about is the fact that this is all tied to the black athlete in America.
Most definitely.
You think about it. We're more offended by the black athlete who uses his celebrity to kneel in silent protest for equality than we are the billionaire white Christian nationalists who use their bully pulpits to mimic Nazi salutes and disparage an immigrant nation. This is the United States. What I described is the real U.S. And that sucks, but it's very, very real. When you think
I'll give you an example.
Yeah, please.
How many times have we seen Stephen A. have this kind of vitriol for a white athlete?
I can't recall. Stevie. Maybe you can.
Now, how many times
Tim Tebow.
Who?
Maybe when he was on with Skip debating Tim Tebow. Maybe.
Yeah, but it was almost like we giving him a pass.
Right.
But he should have been talking about Tim Tebow the same way he's talking about Bronny James.
Correct.
At the end of the day, if you look at how Tim Tebow played back in those days, it was atrocious.
Yes.
But he's a God-fearing man, so we can't come after him.
Right.
Remember, he used to kneel and pray before the game.
Yes.
Nobody said anything about that.
Good point. That's actually a very good point.
The guy could throw 1 for 15, and they would criticize him, but they didn't criticize him in the way that he was doing with people like you said, Allen Iverson.
Yes.
And people, some of the other guys that we talk about, you know what I'm saying? He never did. Calling people a scrub. A person that averaged 1.5 points a game in college. And you got the nerve to call people like, yeah, my man Kwame Brown, a scrub.
Right. Right.
And then the other day, as he's talking about LeBron and what I did bring up, I didn't bring up this and I didn't bring up that. Then he goes, I think he just don't like me because I think Michael Jordan is number one. After all these years, you really think LeBron James sweat like he up worrying about what your ass think?
He has no care or concern. He has no care or concern. And that's why people right now are leaning towards this being a work, because they will bring up the fact that, again, LeBron, this is not part of his MO. LeBron is never the type to pay attention to the silly media or bring it upon himself to go on a Pat McAfee show and do this. Unless the brand itself is asking him to. This is coming from way above ESPN.
That's another thing.
Right?
Hold on,
if people want to frame this, I
don't
think
Abby.
we have to
Let me ask you something.
the optics, because this is bigger than ESPN, and it's actually even bigger than Nike, although Nike is, in this case, a much bigger proponent than ESPN in this storyline.
Think about this.
Yeah.
And everybody out there that's listening to, have you ever seen LeBron James do an in-depth interview while the season is going on in its importance right now? Have you ever seen that?
Unheard of. That is PR death. No PR.
Think about that.
No publicist and no PR firm would ever recommend their client, even someone on an elite level like LeBron James. Nobody would tell their client to do something in the middle of the season where a stock could drop.
No, this not. This at the end of the season.
Unheard of. Unheard of.
And we're trying to see who's going to be in position for the playoffs.
Correct.
Are you kidding me?
What I'm saying is I think this took place this was being set up during the middle of the season. You're right. You're right. LeBron James appears right now in late March, end of the NBA season historically.
I think he asked for this.
I think so.
He's got the cachet to ask for this.
But I also
because he doesn't do anything to uplift somebody else's stuff. I can do my own.
He's also got a lifetime contract with Nike. And I think that protects him enough to know, and this is not, again, LeBron James has, economically speaking, taken a lot of his money, and without anybody forcing him or asking him to or twisting his arm, has done everything he could to be a philanthropist. And we know he's been an excellent philanthropist and always has gotten himself ahead of any sort of social issues. We get that. But he also
Hold on, my boy Leon just said something. I think him on Pat's show was just chilling and having a convo. You're missing the point.
It's never
Leon.
just that, Leon. It's never just that.
You're missing the point. I'm not talking about how they engage with each other. If you know anything about professional sports, you do not do interviews in the middle of a week. Basketball can be 2-3 games a week. You might call into a radio show or something like that. You don't go sit down with nobody and you got a game tomorrow night. You don't see that.
No, you don't. You don't. And Stevie's
right. That's what we're talking about.
Stevie's absolutely right. And you know what? I know I brought this up in the past, but you and I've been talking, Steve, I want to tell you something. There were a couple of your amazing viewers. You know, some of my viewers watch your show, Chad and others. Some watch, they've now messaged me and like, hey man, we love the chemistry you and Stevie have. And guys, we might be doing something pretty soon. Not might. Like, this is going to be a really cool year for us. Actually, behind the scenes, what's going on in terms of my world is it's 20 hours of nonstop creativity, a lot of progress. And speaking of progress, add a couple of S's and an O and you get Progresso. National sponsor. We got a lot of things cooking right now. A lot. And I'm going to say that to say this. everything we're doing right now is meant to educate you, but we're going to do it in a way where we're never going to ignore you or speak over your heads. But I've got to bring this up, and I know Stevie would be okay with it, because Stevie, I want you to be as involved as you always are about this topic. I promise it's going to go back to LeBron. I want to talk about systemic racism for about 5 seconds, if you don't mind.
Okay.
It's going to tie back to this situation. Let me know what you think of this, Stevie.
I will.
We know that the evidence of systemic racism is in plain sight. And guys, I speak from the heart. As you've seen me on my show, I don't have no script. I speak from the heart. I freestyle from the heart. I speak from the heart. The problem is we've accepted a lot of explanations that are comfortable, that obscure the truth. I call it victim blaming. Stevie, when we see Black Americans achieving, I don't know, extraordinary success in sports and music, what do we call it? We call it natural talent, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be natural talent. See, how could a seemingly positive framing that can mask systemic barriers, how could that be negative if we're talking about natural talent? When we see Black communities, though, that are concentrated in inner cities, what do we attribute that to? Disenfranchisement, anger, but we don't acknowledge the deliberate policies that forced and kept the Black families through redlining, through restrictive covenants, through systemic inclusion. That shifts the blame to the victims. It focuses on their responses, but it doesn't focus on the system that trapped them. So when you frame Black success in certain fields as an innate ability and an urban concentration as a cultural choice, we've now found ways to talk about the effects of systemic racism that not only avoid acknowledging the system, but what we're doing now, Stevie, is we're subtly reinforcing it by blaming those that oppress it. What it's doing is dividing Black men and women from their own people by telling them that this is the only way you're going to make it. This is the only way you should make it. And if you don't, the people keeping you down are not the people that have different skin color and skin tones as you. The people keeping you down are your very rich Black athletes and musicians who don't give a shit about you. That's how they divide and conquer.
That's, man, remarkable. 100% right. And we see that going into this situation of which we're talking about tonight. Let me give another example.
Yeah.
I was on the phone today with Brother Mike.
Right.
And we was having, Avi, this same conversation.
Right.
The same conversation. Okay? But it started more in a professional wrestling context.
Yes.
Because Brother Swerve Strickland is having a little soiree, if you will, with my brother. And different people have been asking me to talk about it. And as you know, I don't give two shits about what those guys are going through, because it got nothing to do with what I'm talking about.
Right.
I talk about real shit, not bullshit.
Right.
You know, it's a time to talk about bullshit. It's a time to talk about real shit. I'm a real guy.
Well said.
Okay?
Well
but
said.
Be it as it may. Stephen A., going back to what you were talking about, when I was just saying, he was saying that LeBron is upset with him because he's Michael Jordan. Then he started reciting all these things. And guys and girls, I want, like the professor says, I want you guys to listen. This is what they never talk about. How they create a narrative, bring you into it, and then take your mind to make you think of certain things. Because at the end of the day, it's got to be cool.
Right.
Because if it's not cool, the masses of people that can afford it won't buy it.
Right.
At the end of the day, everything is about profit.
Yes.
Everything. Yes. So, Stephen A. the other day brings up Michael Jordan. What does Michael Jordan have to do with you saying disparaging things about LeBron using his son?
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. Hey guys, can you let me know if you can hear Mr. Stevie Ray right now on your end? Let me know if you could type. He's frozen on my
Screen.
end.
Now,
There we go.
now I'm back. You're back? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, my friend.
Okay. Okay. We got it, Timmy. What does the accolades of Michael Jordan has to do with his back and forth with LeBron James? Nothing.
Nope.
But you see how he snuck that in there.
Yes.
When it comes to this debate, when it comes to this debate about who's better, let me say this to everybody out there. When it comes to athletes in different eras, let me say this, people. There is more than one way to be great.
Yes.
There's more than one way to be right, and there's more than one way to be wrong.
Right.
Now, let's get down to the real nitty-gritty.
Okay.
If you ever hear these arguments, just because you did something first does not mean that is the template of greatness. You hear people say stuff like Michael Jordan was a killer.
Yes.
He was an assassin.
Yes.
Okay, let's take that into context. There are assassins like Lee Harvey Oswald, who supposedly, allegedly, shot JFK with a bolt-action rifle
Must have been the best
from a
shot
sixth
ever.
floor. Okay? That is what they want you to believe. Even though every expert that's ever tried it said it couldn't be done. But your government said
he was like
no.
It was like an ambidextrous Billy the Kid.
Right. So be that as it may, let's take that. Let's say they're right. You're an assassin. But then there are assassins that doesn't need a gun. There are assassins that can meet you somewhere and you're on the list to be hit. And this man has become your friend. And you and this man is out, hanging out. And he put poison in your drink. And 3 hours later, you're dead.
Right.
My point is this. A killer with a gun is one thing. But a killer that doesn't use a gun, but he's still an assassin, is another thing. My point is, wrong is wrong and right is right. At the end of the day, dead is dead. I just went another way.
Sure.
So in essence, we as people, when we hear the word assassin, we think a Lee Harvey Oswald type. We don't think about the cerebral guy that knows how to take all the pieces and complete the same job. See how they do that? But see, I'm too big for that. I can take people that I work with or play with, and they will run through a wall for me. Years later, when people were my friends, they don't say, I don't fuck with you no more. How many people have said that about Jordan as opposed to LeBron James? I made you a better man. I am Spartacus. I will lead you there. You are Sergeant Carter from Goma Powell USMC. You're going to yell it into my head for greatness. You see the difference? Does anybody out there know what I'm saying? It's more than one way to be great. And just because you came before me, that doesn't make you greater if I don't accomplish the same things you do, because you haven't accomplished the same things I have in the same game. Does that make sense to anybody? What do you think about that?
Could you ask me that question of who I think is greater, LeBron or Michael?
No, I'm not. I'm just talking about the argument.
No, I promise you I'll get there. Can you just kind of ask me that question? I swear. I'll
okay.
Yeah.
Who do you think is greater?
Neither. And here's
Okay.
why.
Okay.
We don't hear anybody saying neither.
Yeah, we do. You and I have talked about it.
Yes, you and I talk about it all the time. You're right about that. In acting and storytelling, there's something called an objective and a super objective.
Right.
Your super objective is your main goal. Every athlete's super objective is to win the championship, make the Hall
Right.
of Fame, be an all-star.
Right.
Great. Your objective at the moment is to be the best in your position.
Mm-hmm.
That's where things now, there's a fork in the road in that conversation where LeBron James's objective was to make his teammates around him better.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan's objective was to make sure that he made his team better by becoming an individual performer. He knew that they needed his 30 points, whereas LeBron James realized they don't need 30 points, although I can score them when I need to. What they need is about 10, 12 assists from me. And if we're going to compare total points, let's add up, because assists never, and it's boggled my mind how even some of the greatest statisticians of our time have never, in sports terms, ever equated the assist as a point. An assist can lead to 2 or 3 points, or even sometimes 4. If LeBron James is giving you 8 to 10 assists, and let's just be conservative here. Let's just say that all 10 assists led to 2-pointers and not 3. That means that this man contributed to 20 points, and he also gave you about 25 of his own. He's giving you 40 to 50. He's contributing to 40 or 50 points of your team's success, offensively speaking. Michael Jordan's might be giving you 30, 35, 36.
Right.
So if we're strictly talking points, LeBron James has him beat there as well. Although if people are going to say that the super objective is to win a championship, and on this level, that's the only thing we can compare athletes to, I say that that's absolutely ludicrous. Because if you're looking at LeBron James and you're looking at Michael Jordan, I ask all the NBA fans out there who know their history, you tell me which league was more watered down. The NBA of the 90s, which featured a total of 4 to 6 expansion teams who didn't even know anything about competing on that level because they were building their team from the ground up in places like Vancouver.
Right.
Or the LeBron James era, which already had established teams, because when he was a rookie in 03-04, guess what? That same rookie year, the Grizzlies made their first playoffs. So they were already advancing. That same year, 03-04, the Minnesota Timberwolves, an expansion as well recently, made the conference finals.
Right.
The Charlotte Hornets already made 2 conference finals. So all these teams were established. Therefore, the league wasn't as watered down, had more competition in place, and Jordan was able to feast off of those expansion teams, which, not to take away from the Bulls, but it allowed them to get to 70 wins a lot sooner when you're feasting on 2 expansion teams named the Raptors and the Grizzlies.
Right. Oh, you said it, brother. But it's funny how people don't bring that up because they control the narrative.
Yes.
And it's funny how people will look at a LeBron James and compare a power forward to a 2 guard.
Right.
And circumvent a point. How dumb is that?
Oh, yeah.
How dumb is that?
Right.
That's like a NASCAR to an Indy car on the same track.
Right.
Right. I'm like, we both racing, but you race another position than I do.
Yes, exactly.
But you want me to play this position like you played that position, and that's equal.
And by the way, Leon is putting something in here. I want to say, Leon, you're saying run the list of how many Hall of Fame players Jordan left without a ring. What do you mean? He left them with a ring. You mean, what did they do afterwards?
Hall of Fame players?
What did they do afterwards? Is that what you mean? I'll tell you what some of them did afterwards.
Wait a minute. Let me see this again. Let me see what he's saying. I disagree. You're saying expansion teams run the list of how many Hall of Fame players Jordan left without a ring. I really don't understand the question.
But I will say this, though, Leon. In a way, I kind of do. And Leon, first off, yeah, let's disagree. I love that. Hey, why not? Let's do that. That's a cool thing. Why? You're a smart, intellectual viewer. You're commenting here. I like that. Here's what I'll say to you, though, and you may disagree on this, Leon. You may agree. Michael Jordan, in 1993, when he was in the prime of his career, left the Chicago Bulls team virtually unblemished with 55 wins. Do you know how many wins they got the year he retired without him? 57 wins. How about that?
Actually, Avi, it was the other way around.
No, I'm sorry. They won
57. He left with 57, and they came back with 55.
30 years ago, 31 years ago, you're right. They won 55. All they did was lose 2 less games, and you know who replaced him? Pete Myers, who never averaged more than 10 minutes and 3 points a game, was the starting shooting guard of that team. And by the way, guys and gals, in case you forgot, Horace Grant probably played more in terms of just his actual passion for the game had subsided because he already told Krause at the start of that 93-94 season he was out the door. He was going to let his contract run out. He knew he was going to Orlando. They were already kind of trying to get him to come down there in 1993. My point is this. When LeBron James left Cleveland the first time and left Miami the first time and left Cleveland again, his team was in shambles. They were in the lottery.
They were in the cellar.
Right. Bill Russell in 1969 took a very aging team, a 48-34 win Celtic team, to the championship when nobody said they could against Will Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, and Jerry West, by the way, in 69. That team was in shambles after Bill Russell retired. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar left the Milwaukee Bucks in shambles after he to the Los Angeles Lakers. Shambles. Michael Jordan left a 57-win team almost unblemished because they won 55 without his help and without a superstar to replace him.
Wait a minute.
Doesn't that count for something?
Yes. And Alpha just said this. Yes. But go to the championship, BC. Pippen wasn't. Shit, I lost him. Did you see what he said?
Oh, here we go. Yeah, but didn't go to the championship because Pippen wasn't a Batman. Sure, they won 55 without MJ, but what good is wins without hardware? Well, in order to get hardware, you have to have wins. So it actually is.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Are you saying that they would have won the championship if Jordan was there? Now you Nostradamus? You think they would have beat that Houston team?
The Bulls had a weakness against good centers.
You got to realize their second three came when Dennis Rodman was there.
Right.
Which helped them more than the other guy. Because they got something they didn't have before Dennis Rodman got there. No way they would have beat a three-point shooting team like Houston. And
I love the fact that right.
And the dream would have killed them inside.
You guys got to understand, in 93-94, Hakeem Olajuwon was coming off a couple of seasons where he was criticized by the media for not caring and wanting a trade because the Rockets were in shambles in 91-92 with guys like Don Chaney as their head coach, who was coach of the year and got fired. Olajuwon was unfair. He got fired after being coach of the year. Tomjanovich comes in midway through the 91-92 season, guys, and guides the Houston Rockets almost to a playoffs. And then in 93, we saw an Olajuwon that was determined to make it all the way. My point is this. I agree with what Stevie Ray said. Not all dynasties are built to last forever, whether in sports or outside of sports. Michael Jordan may have evaded and dodged a bullet, or he may not have. My point isn't whether or not they would have won the championship. I think that they had a good chance to win in 94 with Jordan. I agree with you. What I'm saying is this. It goes back to the original point of this conversation. If we're equating success, there's much more than championships that are on the line. You're saying he left the team in shambles, and you're saying here's why. It's because LeBron came to establish teams that had superstars. But here's the part that nobody brings up, and I got to say this. I have to say this. When people bring up that LeBron James created teams through free agency, and I love the comments over here. You guys are passionate, but check this one out. Okay, LeBron James went into teams that were bought and owned. Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade were Chris Bosh was brought in the same time as LeBron, and Wade was already established. Okay, I get that. Same with the Lakers, right? They had all these superstars. He was going to get stars. But here's the challenge in all of that. How many basketballs do they use during a game? They use one. Do you guys and gals who played sports ever understand how difficult it is in the game of basketball? I don't pretend to know about the other sports, although with boxing I do. But when it comes to this game of basketball, I will tell you this right now. When you're holding a basketball in your hands and there are two other superstars who are fiending and dying to get the ball, they want that rock. They want it. They want to get their 25 and 30 because they're playing for contracts as well when their contract years are up. Do you know how hard it is to play with two superstars? It's more of a challenge to play with superstars. It's more of a challenge to make sure that you whet their appetite.
They don't get it.
It's more of a challenge to make sure that they're satisfied. They don't get it. What they're saying is, hey, stars lead to championships. That didn't work with Will Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, and Jerry West, because by the time they won at 72, Baylor was retired. That didn't work with the Dream, Clyde Drexler, and Charles Barkley. That didn't work with Karl Malone, Gary Payton, Kobe Bryant.
They don't get it
either. It doesn't work. It actually is tougher to win with a superstar team because each individual
unless
got an agent in their ear saying, "You're the guy, not that guy. You're the guy."
Right.
They're hearing stuff from their agents, their publicists, their mamas, their baby mamas. They're hearing it from everybody saying, "You need to get the rock." You know how hard it is for LeBron James to make superstars happy on a basketball court?
But this is the thing. This is the thing, Avi. Like I said earlier, Spartacus. Anybody that don't know who Spartacus is, go ahead and read about it.
Right.
Spartacus can do it. You know why? He's a leader of men.
Right.
Period. I don't care how good you are. You will have to walk to my beat for this thing to work.
100%.
That's the part people don't get. Yes.
They don't get that. You got to distribute the ball as LeBron James to two other players, but still be clutch and expect it to hit the big shot like a Michael Jordan is, because the public and the media have propped you up there as the next MJ. So you can't win. Yeah. LeBron was put in a situation where he can't win. And how come nobody's bringing up the age factor? Have you guys ever seen a locomotive who's built as 275 pounds and can run through everybody like a freight train and still be as durable to play at an elite level like he did? I am not discount. I am a big Jordan play as a player, as a person. Different.
I love Michael Jordan.
I'm a big fan. I am not knocking this man, but as
I love him as a player. But this is my thing.
Yeah.
Outside of basketball, I have no respect for Michael Jordan. None. Zero.
Right.
Outside of basketball, I have no respect for him. He's a cliche. But be it as it may, Alpha just said the Knicks should have that year, but Starks, man, what do you mean should have? How does that work in sports? Either you win or you don't.
Right, like Alpha Omega says, Seattle was the best team in '94, but they weren't because they choked to an 8th seed. If you really want to get technical, why doesn't anybody bring up the Atlanta Hawks?
That's why they do a tournament.
The Atlanta Hawks were the number 1 seed that year, and they barely beat Miami, the 8th seed, in 5 games. And they lost to Indiana, the 5 seed. There is no.
I mean, no, Avi. This
conclusion. There's something.
This stuff about this stuff about people should have done stuff.
Right.
Bullshit.
Right.
Either you get the job done or you don't.
That's it. That's it.
The fuck this bullshit about
the bottom
somebody should have did something. Right. If you should do something, you would have done something.
Right.
It's a lot. I put things in this context. We could have won. But this shit about we should have won is bullshit.
I agree.
Because when 5 guys on the court together or 2 guys in a ring together, you got the same opportunities I have. Exactly. Same ones.
Exactly.
And if you fuck up and it don't go your way, that's the way it is.
I totally agree.
So if you should have done something, why play the game? Why play it?
We could say the same thing.
You should win anyway, so ain't no need to get out of here.
Right. We should say the same thing about 3 final appearances LeBron appeared, including the one where Chris Bosh got sick and vomited before a game. Are we going to go there? How come we don't talk about some of the things that LeBron had against him when he was in the NBA Finals with 3 different teams in which he didn't win? There is no superiority based on coulda, woulda, shoulda.
No.
Superiority rests on the results. It rests on results, and that's.
I can't stand when people say. Now, let's say, remember the Miracle in the Meadowlands? Do you remember that? With Joe Pisarcik. You remember that, Avi?
1980.
Was it 80? No, yeah. I think it was before that. I'm not talking about the hockey team. I'm talking about the football game between the Giants and the Eagles.
Yes, yes.
And Joe Pisarcik goes to hand the ball off instead of just kneeling.
Yes.
To Larry Zonka. Larry Zonka missed the handoff.
That's right.
Herman Edwards, a couple of seconds left in the game.
Yep.
Herman Edwards picked the ball up, running for a touchdown.
They were down by 21 points. 21. I think you're right. That might have been 77, 78 or something like that.
I think it was right in there.
Yeah.
76, 77, right 78, right in there. Okay. All they had to do was kneel. They tried to hand the ball off. The Eagles ended up winning the game. Now, that's the game you can say they should have won. But if you look at the other side, if you dumb enough to try handoff and fuck it up, you should have lost.
And you know what? I got a problem with this because Alpha Omega is also.
I'm sorry.
Look, Starks was 2 for 18. He's bringing this up, but I got to say this to you, Alpha, and your engagement, guys. You guys are red hot. I love it. But you got to bring this up as well. Yes, Starks was 2 of 18. But who's to say that if Orlando Blackman, who got no playing time at all, to the point where Pat Riley apologized to him for not putting him in the game years later, he did, and Blackman is still.
Hold on, Avi.
I talked to. Yeah, I was going to say I talked to Orlando Blackman about this. Orlando Blackman. Yeah.
Something's wrong with my microphone, and your microphone is stepping on each other. I don't know what's going on here with the. Let me check my sound.
Okay, no problem. Good
Hold on.
Comments. Lewis Chesney, Sam Cassell. What a great rookie season he had, Lewis, in 1994. He came out of Florida State. Was one hell of a rookie. Jordan's Bulls beat 94 Houston in a 7-game series.
Leon.
What would have happened?
Leon said it worked with Clay, Steph, and KD. That's one team.
That's one team. And by the way,
and in this era, hold on, Avi. In this era, they only shoot 3-pointers.
That's it.
So yes, it works because everybody can shoot the long ball.
How are we vilifying people for getting better? Where do we get to the point where right now we're chastising the athlete for becoming more athletic and more proficient as a 3-point shooter? Back in the day, we were complaining about the opposite. The game was too physical. They weren't athletic enough. Now they're letting them play, and we're complaining and bitching about that.
Because the reason they're complaining about it today is because you have to make yesterday's era comparable to today's. For some reason or another, people on this earth that watch basketball think basketball yesterday is better than basketball today. I even hear Stephen A. Smith say that I want it to be more physical. It takes more discipline. Believe me, people. I've been a physical person all my life.
Right.
And I've been into a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It takes more discipline to play sports with discipline than it does to play it without. Because even the imbecile can get traction.
Yeah.
Because the game takes thinking out of it.
Yeah.
You have to be a very disciplined player to play today and not be frustrated.
Greatness transcends any era. And I have a problem. And it's not just sports. It's relegated to human nature, my friend. And here's what I mean by that.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
We're always going to romanticize the past because we'd like to believe that our upbringing in our era was way more solidified and credible than anybody else's. Why? It's tied to our ego, whether it's the best food, the best movies. You ever hear people say that? Is it coincidental that whether you're black, white, Asian, I don't care what you are, is it coincidental that everybody from their era says they had the best athletes, the best movies, the best sex, what are the best automobiles? They had the best everything because they want to know that they were part of something great.
Special.
It's human nature.
Wait a minute. Alpha just said something.
Yeah.
Get what I'm saying. New York was wearing them out. If you remember, the series was shot 2 and 18, was a major contributor.
Wearing them out.
And they're scoring.
Hey, man,
I don't know what he's getting.
I'm a New Yorker, man. I'm going to say this. I love me some Patrick Ewing, but Patrick Ewing got filleted by Akeem Olajuwon in the final.
No, he's talking about what you call shooting. Okay, we'll take him out the game.
Oh, John Starks. Well, yeah.
What if John Starks had to hit those shots? His job is to shoot the ball.
Yeah, how about this? What if you...
No. That's how the mouth flops.
Yes.
You either win with your big gun or you lose with it.
And to further Stevie's
this
point,
stuff about if this had to happen, if take him out the game then.
What if Hubert Davis and Orlando Blackman came in and didn't hit their shots? What then?
Yeah, exactly.
What then?
If.
Stop playing the what if game. Stop.
No. I'm just telling Alf. Anybody that rely on ifs, as it pertains to winning and losing, then with all due respect, you can say that in any game played. And I don't care what the sport is. If this guy had struck out more people, if this guy hadn't struck out at bat 5 times,
yes.
If this guy had caught the pass in the end zone, or if this quarterback hadn't have got sacked, or if this running back hadn't a fumble. If is a big word depending on what context you put it in.
Yeah.
When you put people on the floor for 7 games, and I beat you this many out of this many, and I move forward.
I agree.
That's the way the mop flops. Because you had more than one day to do it.
Exactly.
If.
And you know what? I got to say this too, because Timmy Lee brings up too many threes is killing the NBA. Timmy, I'm going to ask you a question. If you're playing a game, any game, a video game or a real game, if your goal is to win and you're going to accentuate your strengths in order to win, great. That should be your goal and that should be your objective. Are you going to tell me right now that if the athlete can bury 3-pointers and put his team up by 3 instead of 2, that athlete should not take that shot if it's now become a high percentage shot and therefore increases the likelihood of his team winning? I think that's foolish. I think you want teams to regress. Why would you want them to regress? Just because you don't like it? Just because everybody else is saying it? If their goal is to win, I may not even like it, but if their goal is to win a game, 3 points is always going to be better than 2 any way you slice it. I'm not Albert Einstein, but I can tell you I'd rather take 3 than 2, Stevie.
Well, let me say this.
Okay.
If it's killing it, how is 3-pointers? Why would you implement a 3-point? You know they got that from the ABA, right?
1976.
You know they got that from the ABA, Timmy.
And it's 79. The first guy to hit a 3 in the NBA was Chris Ford.
Right. Okay. Why implement any kind of rules if you're not going to take advantage of them? Let me ask Timmy this. When I grew up, if you got your hands on a quarterback, you could put his ass on the critical list. I don't like the rules that you cannot touch the guy anymore.
Right.
Do you think that's killing the NFL? Because this is the thing. As we evolve as people, we accept what we see.
Right.
If you're from a different era and people didn't shoot 3-pointers like it is now, then you would say what you're saying right now. I'm from a different era. And a wide receiver didn't have the luxury of getting his head knocked out and getting a 15-yard penalty. Sure. I don't like that. But as things evolve and you want these things to prosper, you have to change the rules to keep the money coming in. Because the criticism of injuries in the NFL, that's what kills the sports.
Exactly. And right now, the people, and you know what
people
yeah,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was going to say to you.
The people today have not seen the carnage that I saw.
Oh, back then, a totally different game. And because of the, and I'm going to say this, Stevie's right. I'm going to say this. If you guys are basketball fans or football purists or hockey fans, it doesn't matter. If you're going to keep watching because you love the sport, very few people will walk away from a sport they love. But the people who are considered casual fans, Stevie, as you know, or non-fans, need something to entice them. 3-pointers are sexy. Fast breaks are sexy. That is what's going to entice the non-basketball purist. What you say, what I say, what Timmy says means nothing because we're still going to indulge and watch the game so that we, not you and me, can bitch about it because that's what people do. We're going to bitch about something we love. We want it to be the best it could be, like a relationship. Why can't this person be like that? Why can't they do this for me? We want people to be the best, and we want our sport to be the best. It can't be the way we want it. It goes back to Dr. Frankenstein. We created a monster. We got to live with it.
Check this out, Bobby. You remember when in the mid to late 90s, all of the 90s, brother, when everybody started hitting the home runs, look how the ratings went up.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Oh, skyrocketed.
Look how the ratings went up when everybody was hitting big home runs.
Yeah.
Look how the ratings in football went up when every quarterback can come out and throw for over 4,000 yards in a season.
Great point. Great point.
See, back in the day, you had to be a G to throw for 4,000 yards.
Correct.
Not until the rules changed.
Correct.
Where you could do pick plays as long as it's a certain many yards to the scrimmage.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if more people, because of what you said, if more asses are going and filling those seats, And I'm a team
That's the
owner.
name of the game.
And I'm a team
It's
owner.
still a business.
I'm not complaining about that. Guys, you don't understand this. What you're watching is not meant to be consumed through the lens of a viewer. It's meant to be consumed through the eyes of a consumer. You are meant to buy product and watch these games so that you can become a fan of the game. If you are not a fan of the game and you're still complaining about it, odds are in this case, as it pertains to the three-point shot, you're still watching it because you're complaining about it. You can't complain about something unless you're watching it. You may not like it. That's a different argument. You may not like it, but this isn't the first evolution of the three-pointer. 1995, they moved the line a bit closer after that 94 series, if you remember.
That's right.
And then everybody was taking three-pointers and nobody was complaining. Do you know why they weren't complaining? Because they were celebrating a star that just made a return into the NBA named Michael Jeffrey Jordan.
Exactly.
They were celebrating the Nike brand. And right now, the Nike brand, with Michael Jordan retired for the last 22 years, he is still the most popular athlete in the world. And if you think Nike is going to relinquish that, if you think they're not going to have a stranglehold on the Jordan brand, you're out your damn mind, because this brand is making money. Now that they're starting to lose money, they're getting other players involved in this game.
This is another thing Timmy just said, but it's the opposite effect on the NBA ratings.
They don't count anymore because people are screaming. This isn't the 1990s. It's not the Nielsen.
I was just about to tell him that. This is totally different, bro.
Right.
And you got to realize something. The NBA, as opposed to the NFL, the NBA is a world brand.
Right.
The NFL isn't. A world brand. So even if the ratings go down slightly here in the United States of America, you know who's still there? Every single solitary sponsor. Every single solitary sponsor. Now, the NBA has a problem promoting their stars. Because like I said earlier, Oklahoma City has an emerging star. And look how they're playing. And look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. They haven't played this good since LeBron James left.
Yeah.
And look at their records. And ESPN rather be talking about Bronny James. Are you kidding me?
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
If people don't know who's who, because everybody looks at these media outlets to keep them up on things. And you're talking about the clickbait. So you're being dishonest with the people. Now they've gotten into the same thing. People want to criticize LeBron James. Let me ask you this, Timmy. What if LeBron James wasn't even playing in the league right now? What would the ratings be then?
Oh, very good point.
What would they be?
They'd be in the toilet.
Yes.
And by the way, the same people that are dogging LeBron right now are going to be celebrating and worshiping this man at the altar, mark my words, when he retires. Maybe not soon thereafter, but in a few years they will, because Michael Jordan was also hated when he was playing. I remember.
And people don't remember. Most people are not old enough to know that, Albie.
They're not old enough to remember that. So
they're not old enough to remember that.
You do, and I'm glad, because you remember this, Stevie. I mean, you young cats out there, you'll have to understand that Michael Jordan was vilified by a lot of people, including the media, and a lot of people will say that that's what drove him out of the game the first time. There's a different narrative I have there. I won't go there.
Yeah, we know that.
How that was set up. But I will say this. It all goes back to what Stevie said. In some way, shape, or form. Not in the way you think. Not with Pat McAfee. Not with LeBron James rigging this. But when it comes to the Nike brand, when it comes to politics, when it comes to world currency, when it comes to sports, this all goes back to wrestling. It all goes back to the storyline and the script and the characters involved and character development. The greatest screenwriters are in Washington. Stevie said this to me, guys, in person in Vegas years ago. Everything goes back to wrestling. And you're watching ESPN and the NBA and every other major sports affiliate out there finally embrace that culture, because it's out of the closet now. Now people are deciding to mold their brand and emulate it by using WWE as a blueprint, Stevie.
Exactly.
The blueprint. It's become
exactly.
a blueprint.
People don't get it.
It's all a story.
They create a narrative and pull you in, and then you start believing the bullshit. The shit is old as the crucifixion.
Crucifixion.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I don't hate LeBron. I hate the media's coverage. Nobody gets shy. I don't hate nobody. And I'm big enough to know what I'm looking at when it comes to the media.
Yeah.
So it don't affect me.
Right.
I don't let somebody else's perspective of something that I can study for myself affect me. My emotions are mine. And I'm not going to let the world or this government or this world that owns the media fuck with my emotions, because I know the real truth.
Preach.
I know the real truth. And as long as you know the real truth, you're like Magneto on X-Men. As long as I got this helmet on, you can't mess with me. Because once they get into your emotions, you're done.
That's it.
You're one of them. You're the Walking Dead. Just like on that television show.
Amen.
You're a zombie.
Amen.
You'll believe it all. And you'll take it all in. You'll believe something like an airplane hit a building and the building burnt to dust. You'll believe that. Yeah. You'll believe going to war and say people got weapons of mass destruction, so we're going to attack them or solve a nation and kill 1.5 million people, and you won't give a damn. You know why? Because you're a zombie. And you don't care because it ain't happening to you, because they made you believe that. If it's not happening to you, you shouldn't give a damn about it.
That's right.
That's what they do on a daily basis.
You have to see the conversation, not just hear it. You have to see the conversation.
It's bigger than you. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than the professor.
It is.
It's bigger than all of us.
It is.
But if you know what you're listening to, you might land on your feet.
Stevie, I was talking about somebody, and I want to bring this up to you guys who are fans of Stevie, and you should be. He's humble, so he won't say it, but Stevie's involved in the celebrity tournament, biggest tournament of all time. It really is. Had 145, and it's called a sport of the mind, and it's really catching on with people because, man, oh man. I'll tell you this right now. Lewis, I believe Harlem Heat would have held the WWE Tag Team Championship belts. Alpha, you Stevie, I was talking about something. Guys, Stevie's part of this intellectual tournament that people right now across the board, from the Johnny Damons to the John Goodmans to the Will Defoes, they're all saying they can't wait to be able to keep advancing because this is a tournament that brings the best out of people. You're going to see him really soon and find out who his second round competition is, and you'll be able to vote to see if he moves on to round 3. Stevie, your guy right here, my friend, will you move on to round 3 and get closer to win this whole thing, where $15,000 as a cash prize is going to increase, but a 5-day, 5-night first-class trip to Greece is also on the line. So a lot on the line. I was saying this to a professor, Stevie, that's going to be on the show soon. I'll give you the initials, CW. You know who that is. Okay. CW and I had a conversation about something he wasn't privy to. And it all ties back to this as well. Do you guys know that Black Americans have been screwed over when it comes to property taxes over the last 150 years? Do you guys know that?
That's just the beginning. It's
just the beginning. But let's talk about recent times, modern times. 1945 is modern times. Here we are, watching Leave It to Beaver, eating TV dinners, telling our wives to go back to the kitchen and buy everything they can to make their kitchen as silky smooth as it possibly can. They want to make sure everything's pristine, while Black Americans right now are not allowed to flock to the suburbs because the white people form new school districts. And that allowed them, Stevie, to keep their local property tax dollars, but they couldn't share them with the areas they left behind. You see, those suburbs were built in areas that were predominantly black. And there's something called fragmentation. And the fragmentation of our country made the losers lose more and the winners win big. And the way they did that was majority black cities and school districts, Stevie, were forced to tax residential property to generate enough revenue to maintain basic services. So, for example, cities like Gary, Indiana, Newark, New Jersey, they had some of the highest property tax rates. At the same time, their school systems and public services had underfunding. which gave the
Wow.
white
And how can that be?
beneficiaries, right, because the white upper beneficiaries who happen to be, again, in the upper class could limit the presence of poor people of color
Hey,
because they
man.
were seen as consuming local tax dollars. If that ain't systemic racism, I don't know what is, Stevie.
Well, that's the thing, Avi. Most people, I don't really know how we got on this, but it really connects with what we were talking about sports wise as it pertains to just living in a country. And when people make these kind of assertions, everything was contrived in a boardroom somewhere. Nothing happens by accident.
Correct.
Nothing.
Correct.
That's the thing people don't get.
Correct.
Nothing happens by accident.
Agreed.
Nobody chooses to be anything.
I agree.
Someone is behind you being there. I just had this conversation with Brother Michael today from the CT Fletcher podcast. I wish you had been there, brother, because we had a very good conversation. But ladies and gentlemen, Avi, the professor, and I, we're going to be coming out with something where we can have these kind of conversations. Maybe you got a little whiff.
Right, a little whiff.
Maybe you got a little whiff of it tonight. But all my guys, hold on a second. Like Alpha, like Timmy, we love these conversations, man. Keep it coming, bro.
Oh,
you know
guys
what I'm saying?
were
Challenge us.
Comment section. Yeah, chat. You guys were great. And by the way, I apologize, Stevie. I owe you an apology. Do you know why?
What's that?
I didn't tie what I just said to this conversation. I'm going to do that real quickly in 30 seconds. You ready?
Okay.
Here's what it has to do with Stephen A. Smith. I just told you guys the imbalance when it comes to property taxes, and I told you guys the imbalance when it comes to white America suppressing the African American in a very systemic fashion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, here's my question for you, Stevie.
What's that?
Is Stephen A. Smith not African American?
No. No.
He's not?
No.
What? He's not.
Stephen A. Smith is Jamaican by birth.
Yes, but there was also
his people came here on their own volition.
Right.
Now he may have been born here, and that gives him an outlet to have the outlook that he has when he goes out of his way to attack an African American that's just trying to play a game and feed his family.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying?
But I do see what you're saying.
But at the end of the day, when he signs the census card, he's going to say African American. I got nothing against Stephen A.
He will say.
But you're going to have to go after the other side the same way you go for the side you profess to be a part of.
I agree with that. But I will say this though, because you're right. You're 100% right.
He's going to have to do that. Because
But I will say this though. The reason why I'm tying this to Stephen A. Smith is that there's a fear for anyone who's black and happens to be American. There is a fear.
I'm sorry.
He's not black, Stephen A.
I'm laughing at KB.
I see the comment. I'll say this though.
Do you remember who said that, right?
What's that?
I said, do you remember who said that?
He's not black, he's Stephen A.
Remember OJ said that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, of course. I'm OJ.
That's what he's talking about.
I'll say this though. When it comes to why people are calling people sellouts, which is one step lower than an Uncle Tom. If you're gonna call somebody a sellout, you got to remember this as well, guys. What are you selling out to? There's a fear that's attached to what I said. I gave you that diatribe about property taxes and inequality.
Right.
I'm a very quiet guy that likes to be left alone. I didn't say that because I wanted to brag. I said that because, systemically speaking, the Black American and the African American and the Jamaican American and the Ethiopian American are afraid of one thing. They're afraid of suppression. And they were told that unless they receive any sort of lifeline, that they're not worthy of success. So really what it boils down to is, are you going to drown or are you going to swim? And that's what white culture has done to black Americans. They've turned everybody against each other because they tell them that unless your wealth is bought and owned and sold by me, the white man, your wealth doesn't belong to you to begin with. Why?
When it comes to Stephen A,
you are renting it. You are not owning it.
When it comes to Stephen A, to bottle the edges, he's not helping.
Of course he's not, but he's helping himself.
He has become the very thing that African Americans despise.
I agree.
And then he tries to play both sides of the aisle.
Yes, he does.
He will say this about, he's even trying to get into politics. He'll say this about Democrats, then go over here and kiss the ass on the right at the same time.
Why does he yell and scream, Stevie? He does that because he was told that that's what the black Americans do in front of the camera in order to be relevant. So he himself, where does that come from? A place of fear. He's afraid that in order to be relevant, he can't rely on his intellects. How come we don't see any of the... Think about this for a second. I want to ask you this before we go, because I think it's really important to bring this up, okay? There's a lot of messed up things to bring up over here. But why don't we talk about the corporate types who so happen to be black? We talked earlier,
there's a whole bunch of them out there. I mean, I don't really get into that on this show.
Right.
You know, I might talk about it on the Black and White podcast. But this thing, we get into relationships between the cultures, but it's sports generated. Because a lot of times these conversations get outside the lines of sports. And that's not what Straight Shooting with Stevie Ray is about.
Cool.
It has to be attached to sports.
Cool.
And if it's attached to sports, that's great.
Cool.
But I know exactly where you're coming from, though. You're just a little bit more passionate than I am sometimes. Not more passionate, but just on this show.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? You're a little bit more passionate. Whereas me, I will take something serious like that. And like you brought up redlining and things like that. And I'll make it a little bit easier to talk about.
Absolutely.
And relate it to a sports situation. So the audience can kind of get it. And not like I'm going into a whole nother level of conversation.
Absolutely. I'm
glad I know exactly where you're coming from.
Right. This was very important to do, and I could see based on the comment sections, we're getting paragraphs from people, which is great. Guys, keep thinking, because this man over here to my left, he keeps me thinking all the time. Whether we're talking or not, and we talk a ton, I'll tell you something right now. On this show, you're going to get educated, but you're going to have a ton of fun. This is the guy that gave me, without him knowing it, this is the guy that gave me the idea of merging entertainment and education, interweaving it together. So you're on the right place. You got to get your friends and fam to tune in whenever you get that notification right here on Stevie Ray TV. This is the place to be.
And that's my deal. Hey, wait a minute. Sir KB, Jim Brown was the poster child of sellouts. Before we leave, you got to explain that to me, bro. What's up on that? I know Jim Brown went down there. Wait a minute. He said he even threatened athletes. What? KB, what you talking about? When he told those athletes that they could invest back in their communities and things of that nature, Jim Brown wasn't wrong. He was coming from another place.
Oh, I see. Because he sat down with Trump, right? Is that why?
I think that's what he's bringing up right now.
Okay, then let me bring something up for you. Look up the Cleveland Summit. Look about his activism. Look at his entire legacy. Do you guys realize there was a Cleveland Summit where all these athletes were told they'd get fired from their sport if they gathered, but they did? Athletes, Bill Russell, Muhammad Ali. They discussed racial injustice and the role of athletes in social activism, and this man was told if he'd go to this meeting, he would get let go? Are you get his entire salary docked, and he did it anyway? That ain't a sellout.
Leon just said He's saying that because Jim Brown liked white women.
That might be true.
What?
That might be true.
Wait a minute. Jim liked all women. And nothing wrong with dating white women. At least as long as you're not Dr. Umar Johnson.
Ah. Oh my God!
As long as you ain't Dr. Umar, because he's a Pan-African, if you know what that means.
Yes.
He's 100% pro-black, period. But that's him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But remember Jim Brown? He threw a woman out the window. What you talking about?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Hey, wait a minute, man. Y'all leave Jim alone. Oh, you got to stop that. I'm not going to let you do that on this show. You're not going to disparage Jim Brown's name. I'm not going to let you do that, bro. So get up off Jim. Just because he went talk to Trump, you don't know what they was talking about. At least, I hope we don't.
Hey, he was a bald guy, wasn't he?
Huh?
He was bald, right?
Yeah, he cut his hair off after he got older.
Don't you think that hairy men should use shampoo on their bodies and body wash on their heads? I never got that. I know, and I also have a friend that says
I never thought about it.
He turns the water on when he gets in the shower. I don't understand that either. Like, most people turn it when they're out of the shower, right? You gotta let the water warm up a little bit. Well, over here on Stevie Ray, guys, and Straight Shoot, you gotta turn the water on. It's turned on for you, and it's hot, and it's sizzling, and you better be able to take the heat.
Oh, Kojak was cool. That's sweet. He was talking about Stephen A., not Jim Brown. Oh, okay. Well, be that as it may. It is what it is, man. Some of the questions, man, that come up the professor's head, brother, I don't get. But that's the stuff that.
How come nobody's asked me? How come nobody's asked me what the best thing was before sliced bread?
What was it?
I don't know. I want someone to ask me that though. What's so
Wait a minute
about sliced bread anyway?
Wait a minute. Kron just popped in with a question. Mason Rudolph back with the Steelers. It's funny. And he puts a laughing emoji. Kron, you just got blocked.
Wow.
You just got blocked from this show.
Wow.
You know how you don't come on this show trying to disparage the Steelers. You don't do that.
Sacrilege.
Try to rub that in my face. He's done, man. He usually come on the show at the beginning. He comes on at the end and try to talk that. Get out of here, Kron. Don't come back.
Grant's having a good time here, man. At your expense, Stevie.
He got to get out of here, man. But anyway,
keep rocking the mic, my friend.
Appreciate everybody coming along and riding on the train this week. You guys got a hell of an edification from the professor once again. And we appreciate everybody making comments. Lewis, don't give him no emoji, man. That sucker's done, man. You ain't coming on here and try to do that and talk about my Steelers, man. I already had to get on one dude's ass on another podcast talking about my Steelers. Yeah. You know how I feel about it. You done ruined my day. For the professor, this is Stevie Ray. I'm out, sucker. Get out of here.